this one's gonna be a little bit controversial, man, and a little bit long too. But I don't think that slavery happened the way that the history books and the Europeans will have us believe. I don't think even slavery. I personally don't think slavery happened at all. Personally, I think it's a psychological trick. I think that black people exist or lived in the States. I think the same way you find black people in Papua New Guinea, you find black people in Australia, you find black people in New Zealand. Like it's we they exist everywhere, So I think this narrative that they were brought from Africa is rubbish, and I'm gonna like center the conversation on a couple points. I want everybody to, whoever listens to this, just listen to this with an open mind. Everything or everything you're trying to your points of view, you've probably learned from somewhere. So let's get into it. So for me, the first thing is so let's go back to the beginning. So people arrive, in 16 or 1492, whatever, 15, the 1400s, whatever it is. They come for whatever reason, whatever the story is. That's not the point here. Then they arrive in their ships. That in itself is a code, but we'll get to that. But anyway, they arrive in their ships, and then somehow, somehow they're able to trick the Africans, give them alcohol, mirrors and shit. And the Africans are, capitulate to them. So the first thing is, I've actually lived in different parts of Africa. I'm an African, and I know that there are a lot of tribes, in Africa, especially the coastal tribes, that do not capitulate. They'll rather die first. If you don't believe me, there's a very good book by or is it Wole Soyinka? Called Things Fall Apart, and the main character, Okonkwo, he, if you read it, you see what I'm trying to talk about. Read about people like Yasantua from Ghana. We don't capitulate. We'll rather die. There was also another chief somewhere in Nigeria. Can't remember the town exactly, the state exactly. But he wouldn't bow to the queen, and he would rather, commit suicide. So for me, it's like, if these people exist or existed, or they still exist because there's still Africans that will not capitulate today, how would they have capitulated to these people? That's number one. Number two, no matter how many people the Europeans brought to Africa on their ships and with their guns and stuff, how many people could they have, how many bullets did they realistically have, and cannonballs and shit like that? Assuming that they didn't come there specifically, right? They were going somewhere else and got lost. That's the narrative, right? So how many would they have had? And do you wage a war? How many of you are there? You've come to someone's actual land. There's, you could get ambushed. Anything could happen to you. You could get fed poison. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Yes, there's the point about wonder and excitement and a novel, seeing a human being that doesn't look like you. Yes, I can get that part of it. And perhaps they were in awe. But for them to turn to slaves, I don't know. But anyway, let's assume it happened. Now, how do you then transport all these slaves? Unless you only took the coastal tribes, right? How do you transport all of them back? Now we get to the point of the forts and the castles. There's not that many. A few prominent ones are Elmina Castle in Ghana, Cape Coast Castle in Ghana. Now, let's even think about this logically, right? How did they build those castles? Like, because they didn't have a home there. They had to stay on their ship, or they had to stay, once they docked, they had to stay on the land, right? They would have needed supplies, etc., etc. So let's assume that due to awe, fascination, whatever, that people didn't attack them, they capitulated, blah, 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 blah. Now, these people are like, right, you people need to follow us back. Why didn't the people just run away? But let's say they thought that, oh my God, these people are like aliens or some shit, right? So we're going to follow them. Now, you follow these people, and they put you in, the belly of their ship, right? Now, you're in the belly of the ship, stacked like sardines, right? you're peeing yourselves, you're defecating, peeing, vomit. There's pests, because we all know that the Europeans brought rats and mice with them and roaches and stuff. So in that living condition, how would the Europeans, how would they have fed the Africans? How? Like how? You would have had to, because it's a long journey, right? So where would they have stored all the food to feed them? Now think about this critically. Like, we're grown-ups now. Like, let's think about this logically and critically. How would they have fed them? Because they're like your POWs. You still have to feed them, right? So, and how much water would you have had to give them? You can't drink seawater. So think about this. Actually, I need to 1 second. 1 second. How would they have fed and watered them? How? It's impossible. Then on top of that, you have, the women, with their periods and defecation. That's all this human waste, because humans produce waste, right? In those living conditions, cholera could have broken out, dysentery could have broken out, any type of disease could have broken out, and just like that, everybody would be dead, even before reaching arrival, including the personnel on the ship. So logic just says it's not really real. Then we go to the notion of the ships and the forts and stuff. Like, where did they bring all the blocks and stuff? Because the blocks and stuff that they build these castles with are not indigenous to the places. I've been there myself, right? Some of them are like, you have like limestone and shit like that. Maybe I'm wrong. I stand to be corrected. I don't know that Ghana has that much limestone or whatever. So would they had to transport these blocks from Europe on their ships back to build them? Who built these fucking these castles as well? Did they use local people? Like, how would, like, think about how complex a project like that, how long it would take, and whilst that's happening, the ship would have probably had to leave. But I don't know, let's assume that they had the people under some sort of trance and spell, and then they built them. Now you have to think about the concrete, all the other supplies and shit like this. It just doesn't add up for me, Then you have like the dungeons and stuff, and the people in there. The people would have, being kept in this situation, people would have been wailing, crying, making noise. Word would have spread. I'm sure tribes would have waged war on these people. Like, even if you said these people have, like, they've come from the sky, their skin is fair, their eyes are blue, they've got this weapon that they can shoot and they'll kill you, blah blah blah. We could have tried guerrilla warfare with them. It happens today. Like, it's not like it happened. I mean, it's not a fair comparison, but ultimately we're not, like, if it's your life, you fight for it. I just don't buy the notion that Africans wouldn't just sit back and just let this happen. It's almost like a psychological trick to convince us that that's what we are, because I don't know, I don't buy it. I don't think it happened that way. It might be controversial. I don't care, but I just don't see how it's going to happen. Now, if we go back to the ship with the people stacked like sardines with all the dysentery and the cholera and all the rest of it, now they get to the States and then they're sold, right? So these white people, so that means that prior to them coming to get us, then that means there would have had to be a demand for it. Because how do you then set up the market to sell them? Unless the Europeans, they had heard stories about the Africans, their strength, their brilliance, whatever it was. So it was like, right, we're going to go and catch some and bring some and sell them. And now, if you look at these slave markets, if you look at the amounts of people they supposedly brought back, right? And you look at old photographs and stuff, how many slaves really are in these slave markets? They're not that many. But you look at the pictures of the ships and there's like literally like thousands or, loads of them stacked, right? Which is bullshit anyway. And bear in mind, like, if even let's assume that all those people, they took that amount, loads of them died. So there were like, I don't know, let's say 10 survivors, and then those 10 were then sold into slavery, or 50 survivors sold into slavery, whatever it was, right? Now, that 50, okay, you put them to work in a plantation, even 100, you put them to work in a plantation, they've already been weakened by the journey, lack of food, lack of water. You can't put them to work straight away. They're ill. they don't have any strength to do that. They've just traveled for, best part of like, even today to travel. Let me actually check this online. Ship journey UK, no, let's say West Africa to United States. There's no real information here. How long? Ship journey, how long? The journey from Africa to North America was the longest. The journey could take as little as 35 days, just over a month, going from Angola to Brazil. But normally, British and French ships took 2 to 3 months. So 2 to 3 months, you would have had to have food for 2 to 3 months. Water for 2 to 3 months. Guys, think about this, man. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't add up. It's not real. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. I mean, if these people can tell you lies about where you live, the kind of being that you are and stuff, like why wouldn't they lie about slavery? There was a video I saw the other day on YouTube, and it was really, really interesting. And the guy had pictures of like these big ships docking with like loads of white people on them in Boston and all these places, Australia, Africa, and it was like, it's funny how like there's always pictures or stories of like loads of white people on ships going to these places, right? But there's no real pictures of like black people getting out of these ships or whatever, Yes, you might say that photographs were not invented, but let's have a look online and see when photography was invented. When was photography invented? So 1830. So let's assume that the transatlantic slave trade went on for what? Was it 400 years, 500 years? Where are the pictures of the people stacked under the ships? Guys, come on. Think about this, man. And then you bring these people and then you keep them on a plantation. You don't have like 24/7 patrols, and yeah, like we've heard the stories, but they were inbreeding and they were breeding with them and stuff, and and if you look at the legacy of like the NBA and NFL, and it's like they were bred, the America, I think America was like an experiment. They took some of the slaves, not slaves, I hate that word. They took some Africans to the States and they tried to create the ultra one, the biggest, the tallest, the fastest, whatever, by, breeding them with different ones that they had found in different places. I don't think they took that many. They probably got one here, one there, one here, one there, and that's more of a realistic story, because one person, one male with 12 females within a very short space of time, there's a lot of them. A lot of them. Think about this, right? Because if every year there's 12 and, you have, I don't know, 10 years, think about it. From one guy, there's 120 now. Think, that's what I think anyway. I'm probably wrong. I'm probably talking shit, but I don't think that's what happened, because it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. And I think there were black people everywhere, black people in South America, everywhere. If you go to India, there's dark-skinned people, their hair and stuff is different. But there's dark-skinned people everywhere. It's dark-skinned people like this. I think Earth is actually, if you at least in the southern hemisphere, is very much suited to darker skinned people, and yeah, that's how I look at it. I don't think it happened the way they said it did. It just seems a bit more realistic, really, and I don't know. I think it's just a collective kind of like story that's told to, you know, African Americans, and they create this narrative and people just feed into it, and you know, people forget who they are and stuff. Because if you really, really think about this, and you know, shouts to like Rashad Jamal on this, he did a lecture, and I remember listening to it, and he said something very interesting, and he said like he never understood why, like he tried to get to the nuts and bolts of why don't they like us, like what is it about Africans that they don't like, you know, dark skinned people that they don't like, you know, like we're faster, we're stronger, you know, we're amazing all around anyway. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. The world's fastest man is dark skin. The guy that probably jumps the highest is dark skin. You know, the strongest probably is dark skin. I know the world's strongest man stuff, but those guys are all on steroids and stuff. But if we were to take a natural guy from Africa that, you know, lifts weights or whatever, and took a European, I'm sure the guy would just like, he'll bury him. And this, it's not a racist thing, it's just facts. Go to any gym and have a look around. I'm not talking shit. You know, you go to Africa yourself, you see like kids, women carrying weights, like, you know, wood and shit like this, normal. And it's not even a stress for them. You know, I've lived in Africa, I've seen it, like, you know, people like weeding with like cutlasses and shit like that, weed a whole fucking acre of land like that. It's like, shit, man, these people are actually crazy. And he was talking about shit like DEA. And I'm convinced Africans are the Avatar people, man. So if you think about the Avatar movie, they came there, you know, in their ships again, and they did what they did. They tried to like destroy their home place and shit like that. The people were wary of them anyway, even though some of them went to their schools, like, so that would be the missionaries and shit like that with their religious bullshit, whatever. So I think that they destroyed our shrines and stuff. They probably had some, you know, weapons, tech. They did what they did. And I don't think that they were lost. I think they came there strategically. They came there purposefully. They had heard of us. They knew about us. They came there on purpose. Because why did they come to Africa? And then why did they go to South America? Why did they go to India? It's like they, like, if you're content in your home, like, why do you need to go out? Like, you know, they went to all these places. Australia, they went there specifically. Like, they went to Australia and basically dumped a load of white people there to basically claim it. Did the same with South Africa, you know. Like, it's not yours. Somebody lived there before you, you know. So for me, I just think the Avatar is a very good kind of like example. They came there, destroyed our religious ways, confused us. Yeah, and that's it. Because if you look at like the similarities between Africans and South Americans, like the authentic, the real South Americans, I'm not talking about the Spanish that live there today. I'm talking about the real ones. Or you talk about like basically, if you travel along the global south, right? You go to Thailand, you go to, you know, any of these countries, there are so many similarities that all dark-skinned people have. It's unbelievable in our culture, in our food, the types of foods we cook, you know, like just one comparison. You go to India and places like they cook biryanis. You come to West Africa, we make jollof rice, you know, our curries and rice, and like our foods are even similar, you know, our palates, you know, spicy food, and we are very similar. But then for some reason they came there, they destroyed the whole Indian subcontinent, like a very spiritual people. They got separated from each other, separated from their god, but their gods and stuff. And you know, they created this bullshit caste system that still stands today based on skin color. You know, this is all facts. Same in South America, same in Africa. They dumped Arabs in the north, you know, where Africans used to live, like, you know, the Middle East, you know. And you might say I'm talking shit, but you go to Egypt yourself, go and look at the hieroglyphs. There's dark-skinned people there, there's dark-skinned pharaohs, you know. So how do you reconcile the two? Like, how can there be a pharaoh who has presided over one of the most advanced civilizations we've ever seen, right? But the same people now turn around and allow you to just take them as slaves? What? Stupid? It doesn't make sense. You know? You then go to South America, you go to Peru, places like this, the same thing. You know? The same kind of like concepts, the same kinds of ideas. You know, you go to, you know, the Aborigines. I don't even like the word Aborigine, just the dark-skinned people of Australia. The same thing. So that it's just that, you know, I don't know what it is. I don't know what the version of unobtainium on Earth is. I don't know what it is, but I think that they came here looking. They came to Africa looking for something. They went to, or they basically came here, and they had to destroy the kind of like indigenous people of this place, because if they didn't destroy them, they feared that they would be destroyed. So they had to destroy them on a psychological level, on a mental level, on a physical level. You know, look at the story of the indigenous Indians in the United States. They don't exist anymore. You know, there's like pockets here and there, and then those people get given alcohol and gambling shops, and that's it. These people own the land that you live on. Like, but these are conversations that nobody wants to have. Like, nobody wants to have conversations about South Africa. Nobody wants to have conversations about Rhodesia, not even Rhodesia, Zimbabwe. You know, nobody wants to have these conversations. Nobody wants to have conversations about Kenya and how the Brits took Indians there to basically act as their kind of like, you know, their first line of defense. And but this is someone's home, you know? How would you feel if we came to the UK and we you know, full on violence, and then we took over your palaces, and you know, or took over large tracts of land and said, yeah, that's us now, you know? And you know, we infiltrated the political system and shit, or we create the political system and get you to adhere to it. Like, it's stupid. What about our political system that was there that before you came? You know, because this idea of like we were uncivilized is stupid. We were civil way before you guys came. You know, how can you say Africans are uncivilized? Like, how can you come and how do you steal culture from people that are uncivilized? So you tell me who's civilized and who's not in this situation. Because if I am civilized, there is no way I'm going to steal the culture of a person that's not civilized. You know, I just wouldn't do that. You know, I wouldn't, like, in terms of how I cook my food, in terms of how I raise my young, in terms of how I bathe, how I, you know, my personal hygiene, in terms of, you know, my grooming, in terms of my education, in terms of my outlook, in terms of my philosophy. There's no way I'm going to take advice from a dog. You understand? Because a dog is a dog and I'm a human. You understand? I'm a man. You understand? So, yeah, it's a deep one. I think us as Africans, dark-skinned people all over the world, you know, I don't know how many people this will reach. I don't really care, but I have to speak my truth into the etheric field. We need to reclaim our past. We need to reclaim our power. You know, you need to know that there is power within the skin that you have. You know, just on a basic level, you can stand in the sun all day. They stand in the sun all day, they will burn like vampires, bro. You understand? They will burn like vampires, and that's a fact. You know, so that in itself tells you that you are powerful. There's something unique about you. Because the things that are kind of like structural on this earth, i.e. the sun and the moon and shit like that, they agree with you, but they don't agree with them. Do you see the point? You know, you're strong, you're powerful, you're intelligent. Like, think about this. Like, why would people have power trips in how they treat us, and you know, trying to arrest us and doing this, and you know, institutionalized racism and all this other stuff? Why? Because if I literally couldn't give a fuck about anybody that, like, do your thing, man. But like, why do you feel the need to make us feel like that? Why do you feel the need to, you know, remind us of these things that you supposedly did to us? Why do you feel the need to always, you know, in pseudo kind of like scientific ways, trying to prove, like, trying to connect us to like animals and, you know, uncivilized people? What, you know, oh, the first, you know, ape that was evolving was in Africa and shit like this. This bullshit. You're just conditioning us to believe a narrative. Because if that's the case, then where are the in-betweeners? Because monkeys exist, the primates exist. So where are the in-betweeners? Like, that's how evolution works, right? So if you are evolving, yeah, you have stage A, and the stage A is the monkey, the chimp, whatever it is, and it exists, right? And the stage B, which is the upright one that, you know, can use tools or whatever it is and can critically think, has a bigger brain, whatever, right? And stage C is man with a weaker back, weaker muscles, not strong, you know, because obviously they depict the end product as the white man, right? Where is the in-between? Is the in-between us? If the in-between is us, right, then why are they not as strong as us? Because why are we evolving backwards then? Stupid. Makes no sense. Like, it makes no sense, guys. Like, you have to really, really open your mind and think about these things, you know? Like, critical thinking is an art that's becoming lost in this world. Like, evolution in itself is bullcrap, you know, because you will not find any in-betweeners anywhere. Furthermore, what did the bee evolve from? What did the ant evolve from? What did jellyfish, octopus? I can name thousands of species, you know. So you really need to think about what it is you believe, the beliefs that you hold about the world itself. So for me, this conversation is not so much about slavery, it's about us reclaiming, you know, certain truths about ourselves. Like if you don't know it, right? Access the Akashic records, like meditate, you know, find some good teachers and learn about your history. Go deep within. Like you go to let's look all over the world, right? Let's look all over the world. So you go to India, there are some temples with amazing architecture that was built by them. Right? So if you're an Indian and you're being told that you're a lower caste and this and that, no, go back and revisit that and find out like how did you do that? How did you get there? How is it possible that at one point you were this and now you're that? And then try and find an in-between story and find an in-between story that makes sense to you, right? Because your skin, I promise you, is not a reason why you're in that situation, bro. Somebody put you there for a reason because they know what you are. Do you understand? Even if you look at like, there's dark matter in our brains, right? The science will tell you. Let me actually get a name. We are dark matter entities, bro. We're not even like, we are one with the universe itself, right? Dark matter in brain. Dark matter DNA influences brain development. What's it called? There's dark matter in your brain, bro. There's dark matter in your brain, bro. And there's dark matter. Then that's why they call it dark matter, because they don't wanna. There's no other way to call it. The energetic field that surrounds this whole place, the darkness of it, when it kind of like manifests itself in human form, that's dark-skinned people, bro. Do you understand? So be proud of who you are. Be proud of your color. Be proud of your eye color. Be proud of your hair. Be proud of your nose. Be proud of everything. Your lips. Because you are a powerful fucking entity, bro. Do you understand? You're a powerful entity. Even when they set the race up and they run 10 laps ahead of you, right? You still win the race. You still win the race. Look at how much they've set us back. India, South America, Africa, Australia, New Zealand. But yeah, we're still here and we're still winning, bro. So that should tell you something about us, bro. If we were weak, uncivilized, uncouth, why would you then want to like copy us? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why do you want to braid your hair like us? Why would your women want to like have lip fillers like and have their lips look like ours? Darken their skin to look like us. You don't see us in no rush trying to be like you. Yeah, I get it. You're probably going to say Michael Jackson and people that bleach your skin. But collectively, there are how many Michael Jacksons versus how many of, you know, the people trying to darken their skin and lip fillers and all the rest of it, man. Talking like us, dressing like us, moving like us, doing things that we do, eating our food and shit like that. Yes, I get it. Cultural transfers within culture and stuff, but we all know the truth, man. So this is just a PSA to our people, like all our people, you know, humans on earth. Like, I don't even care if you're like a white person, but if you're a white person, like, you need to recognize that the story itself that you believe is bullshit, because there's no way that you're superior to us. No way. Come on, we all know this shit, man. Like, why would you go and form gangs just to like hang black people and torture them and shit like that? You know, again, like this whole narrative of slavery, right? If there were so many slaves that were taken to America and then they worked and then they whatever, like if you killed one of them from that, why didn't the black people form gangs and kill them back? Like, that's what would have happened. And I know they tell us about the Crips and the Bloods and community resistance in progress, but that was like, it's These are like recent developments. Let's talk like back then, KKK and stuff, you know? And it just doesn't make sense. For me, I think if I am way superior than somebody, I wouldn't waste my time going to fucking meetings and wearing pajamas and shit like that and hanging them and shit. Like, what to what end? I'm better than you anyway. Like, am I losing sleep over you? You know. And if you look at like, you know, the NBA and all the rest of it, it's just entertainment for like, it's just like, oh, it's just like Sunday sports, and then you wear a Sunday best and just entertain master and stuff. Is bullshit, because these guys don't really say anything of any value. They just get their money and that's it. You know, and when people talk about the Matrix and stuff, it's not really a Matrix as in the Matrix, but it's a false reality where, you know, people don't know who they are. So they play these roles in this fake world. It's a fake world, you know. I just know that slavery and shit like that is just bullshit. I've gone back to my roots. I've learned about my history. I've learned about our connection with Egypt. I've learned about the migration, the great migrations. I've learned about all of that. And the migrations happened after the Hyksos period, when the Europeans and the Arabs came. Well, you know, you spend some time looking into that. It's a very interesting story. But a good book is Black Athena by Martin Bernal, who talks about the Afro-Asiatic roots of ancient Greece. And you should look at how much the system fought him for that. You know, people were like, oh, he's not intelligent. This guy is a certified professor. They said he was talking shit, didn't know what he was talking about. But he's written multiple volumes of his book, and there's so much evidence that points to that, you know, but they'll say it's rubbish because it pushes a narrative. So the long and short of it is, man, you're not a slave. You're not a descendant of a slave. You're a descendant of pharaohs. You're descendants of kings. You're a descendant of gods. Do you understand? You're descendants of like emperors, powerful entities, powerful beings, spiritual beings. That's where you have to draw your lineage from. Fuck slavery. Forget about it. Don't even spend one more second of your life thinking about it. It's bullcrap. Even if it did happen, what use is it? Why would you start drawing your history from your recent history? Draw your history from back then. Like, imagine you're a 50-year-old person, right? But then, say for instance, you're a 50-year-old person, right? And then let's say something traumatic happens to you when you're 40, right? So you have a car crash or something at 40. It's your whole life. If somebody asks you to tell your life story, do you start your life story from the post-crash or the crash? No, you start your life story from the beginning. Even if you've had a brain injury and stuff like that, and you don't remember the whole thing, you know that's not your whole story, you know. So focus on that, kings and queens, and gods and goddesses, and emperors and empresses, and gods and spirits and entities and forces, you know. Much love. I'm spreading love, you know. Know who you are. Most of you are star seeds anyway. Most of you, ton of you. And this is why you have to be. Anyway, it gets deep anyway. We'll save it for another time.